Something just shifted in the Middle East arms race. While Iran develops hypersonic missiles and nuclear capabilities, Israel has been quietly building something completely different. Not more Iron Dome batteries, not advanced radar systems, a silver-based defense network that makes traditional missile defense look primitive, and they've been stockpiling the materials for 6 months. This isn't about shooting down incoming missiles, this is about disabling them before they reach their targets, using electromagnetic pulse technology so advanced that it requires more silver than most countries import in a decade. The leaked MOSSAD documents call it Operation Silverdome, the most classified defense project in Israeli history, and the technology they're developing doesn't just protect Israel. It could make every other missile defense system on Earth obsolete overnight. Let me show you exactly what Israel has been building in secret, why they've accumulated 420 tons of silver without anyone noticing, and how this changes everything we thought we understood about modern warfare. The first indication that something had changed appeared in global silver markets 6 months ago. Unusual procurement patterns. European refineries receiving orders for high-purity silver with specifications that exceeded standard industrial requirements. Delivery addresses that traced back to shell companies registered in Cyprus and Switzerland. Nobody connects silver purchases to military operations. Silver is for electronics, solar panels, industrial manufacturing, not for weapon systems, not for defense networks. That assumption just proved catastrophically wrong. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A Mossad intelligence assessment that was accidentally included in a routine diplomatic cable. Classification, above top secret. Distribution, eyes only. Subject, silver-based electromagnetic warfare capabilities. The document revealed that Israel's defense establishment has been developing electromagnetic pulse weapons that can disable incoming missiles, drones, and aircraft through targeted energy bursts. Not kinetic interception, not explosive warheads, pure electromagnetic interference that shuts down enemy systems instantly. But generating electromagnetic pulses powerful enough to disable modern military hardware requires electrical conductivity that only silver can provide. Massive quantities of silver, configured in networks that span hundreds of square kilometers. Israel has been building the world's first electromagnetic defense grid. And they've been doing it in complete secrecy while the world focused on Iron Dome improvements and diplomatic negotiations. Operation Silverdome represents the most significant advancement in defensive military technology since radar was invented. And it's specifically designed to counter threats that traditional missile defense cannot handle. Iranian hypersonic missiles, Russian kinetic interceptors, Chinese stealth drones. All of these weapon systems depend on electronic guidance, navigation, and control systems. Disable those systems with electromagnetic interference, and the most advanced weapons become useless hunks of metal falling from the sky. But the technology requires silver infrastructure on a scale that's never been attempted before. Not just silver components and weapon systems. Entire networks of silver-conducting materials arranged in patterns that can generate coordinated electromagnetic fields across Israel's entire territory. The leaked documents describe electromagnetic coverage zones that extend from the Lebanese border to the Gaza Strip. Silver conductivity networks buried beneath major population centers. Pulse generation facilities powered by dedicated nuclear reactors and connected through silver transmission systems. This isn't theoretical technology. This isn't research and development. This is operational deployment of electromagnetic warfare capabilities that could be activated within weeks. And Iran has no idea it's coming. The scope of Silverdome exceeds anything attempted in military technology. The leaked specifications call for 840 kilometers of silver conducting cables, 47 electromagnetic pulse generation facilities, 156 silver-lined underground bunkers serving as network nodes. The total silver requirement, 420 tons of 99.9% pure silver. More silver than most countries consume for all industrial purposes combined. Israel has been acquiring this silver through a network of front companies, intermediary dealers, and offshore procurement entities designed to hide the true scale and purpose of their purchases. European refineries received orders for specialized industrial applications. Swiss precious metals dealers were contracted for technology sector deliveries. Canadian mining companies sold directly to shell corporations with no apparent connection to Israeli defense interests. The procurement operation was so sophisticated that global silver markets never recognized the pattern. Individual purchases remained small enough to avoid triggering monitoring systems. But collectively, Israel accumulated enough silver to build electromagnetic warfare infrastructure that covers their entire territory. The first installations began 6 months ago, construction crews working on telecommunications infrastructure improvements. Excavation projects described as utility modernization programs, engineering work that officially didn't exist but required specialized contractors with security clearances. Satellite imagery analysis reveals the scope of the construction. Linear trenches extending for kilometers beneath major Israeli cities. Circular excavations surrounding critical military installations. underground facilities that require power, infrastructure far exceeding normal telecommunications needs. This wasn't telecommunications infrastructure, this was electromagnetic warfare network installation. And the timeline suggests that Silverdome is approaching operational capability much faster than traditional weapons development cycles. Standard military technology development takes years or decades. Silverdome went from concept to deployment in under 2 years. The urgency suggests that Israel's intelligence services identified an imminent threat that required immediate countermeasures. That threat is Iran's hypersonic missile program. Iranian military technology has evolved rapidly over the past 3 years. Hypersonic missiles that travel at speeds exceeding Mach 5. Guidance systems sophisticated enough to evade traditional intercept systems. Warheads designed to penetrate hardened targets. Iron Dome was never designed to intercept hypersonic weapons. The missiles move too fast, maneuver too unpredictably, and carry too much kinetic energy for traditional interception methods. Israel needed a completely different approach to defense. Not intercepting incoming weapons, but disabling them through electromagnetic interference. Silverdome provides that capability. The leaked technical specifications describe electromagnetic pulse generation capable of disabling electronic systems within a 50-kilometer radius of each pulse facility. Multiple facilities operating in coordination can create overlapping fields that provide complete coverage of Israeli airspace. Incoming missiles enter the electromagnetic field and immediately lose guidance, navigation, and control capabilities. Without electronic systems, hypersonic missiles become unguided projectiles that miss their targets by kilometers. The technology is so advanced that it doesn't just protect Israel from Iranian missiles. It establishes Israeli electromagnetic dominance over the entire eastern Mediterranean region. Syrian air defenses, Lebanese military installations, Iranian naval vessels, Egyptian Air Force bases. Any military system operating within range of Silverdome networks becomes vulnerable to electromagnetic disabling at Israel's discretion. Israel isn't just building defensive capabilities. They're creating the ability to disable enemy military systems across multiple countries simultaneously. This represents a fundamental shift in regional military balance, not through superior numbers or more advanced weapons, but through the ability to electronically neutralize enemy capabilities without firing a shot. But Silverdome creates risks that extend far beyond regional military considerations, because the technology that protects Israel from missile attacks could also be used to disable civilian infrastructure across the Middle East. Power grids, communications networks, transportation systems, banking infrastructure, all of these depend on electronic systems that are vulnerable to electromagnetic interference. Silverdome gives Israel the capability to shut down entire countries electronically. Not just military neutralization, but complete infrastructure collapse. The implications are staggering. Economic warfare capabilities that exceed traditional military options. The ability to impose costs on enemy nations without conventional military action. Electromagnetic dominance that makes traditional concepts of sovereignty irrelevant. If Israel can disable Iranian power grids, what prevents them from demanding political concessions under threat of electromagnetic attack? If they can shut down Lebanese communications, how does that change diplomatic negotiations? Silverdome doesn't just change military capabilities. It creates new forms of coercive power that international law has never addressed. And other countries are starting to understand the strategic implications. Intelligence sources suggest that Iran has identified Silverdome construction activities and begun developing countermeasures. Hardened electronics designed to resist electromagnetic interference, communication systems that operate through non-electronic methods, military equipment with manual backup systems, but defensive countermeasures against electromagnetic warfare are extremely difficult to implement. Modern military systems depend on electronics for guidance, navigation, communication, and targeting. Removing electronic components makes weapons less effective, not more resilient. Iran faces an impossible choice: accept degraded military capabilities through electromagnetic hardening, or maintain current capabilities while remaining vulnerable to Silverdome attacks. Either choice leaves Iran at significant disadvantage compared to Israeli electromagnetic warfare capabilities. China and Russia are closely monitoring Silverdome development because the technology threatens their own military exports and strategic interests. Chinese weapon systems sold to Middle Eastern countries become worthless if they can be disabled by electromagnetic interference. Russian air defense systems lose effectiveness against enemies with electromagnetic warfare capabilities. Silverdome doesn't just change Israeli defense capabilities, it undermines the military technology that China and Russia provide to their regional allies. This creates incentives for Chinese and Russian electromagnetic warfare programs designed to match or exceed Israeli capabilities. The Middle East arms race is evolving from kinetic weapons to electromagnetic systems, from missile defense to electronic warfare, from traditional military technology to silver-based infrastructure that most countries cannot afford to develop. Israel's 420-ton silver stockpile represents the entry cost for electromagnetic warfare capability. Countries that cannot make similar investments will find their military systems increasingly obsolete. And the silver requirements for electromagnetic warfare are so massive that only a handful of countries can realistically compete. The United States has larger silver reserves, but faces congressional oversight that makes secret military procurement difficult. Russia has mining production, but lacks the technological infrastructure for advanced electromagnetic systems. China has industrial capacity, but limited access to high-purity silver for military applications. Israel's combination of technological capability, financial resources, and operational secrecy gives them temporary but decisive advantage in electromagnetic warfare development. But that advantage depends on continued access to silver supplies, which explains why Operation Silverdome includes provisions for strategic material security and supply chain protection. Israel isn't just building electromagnetic weapons, they're securing the silver supplies needed to maintain and expand those capabilities. The leaked documents reference long-term silver procurement agreements with strategic partner nations, contracts that ensure Israel receives priority access to silver production for the next decade. These agreements effectively remove additional quantities of silver from global markets while guaranteeing Israeli electromagnetic warfare program sustainability. Silverdome creates permanent Israeli advantages in electromagnetic capabilities while denying similar capabilities to potential enemies through resource control. It's military strategy and economic warfare combined into a single operation, and the timeline suggests that Silverdome will reach full operational capability within 6 weeks. Israeli defense officials have been conducting systems integration testing over the past month. Electromagnetic pulse generation at reduced power levels, network coordination protocols, response time optimization. The testing suggests that Silverdome installations are functional and approaching deployment readiness, which means that the next major Middle Eastern conflict will be fought with weapons and defensive systems that most military analysts do not understand and most countries cannot replicate. Iran's planned retaliation for recent Israeli military actions could trigger the first combat use of electromagnetic warfare systems in history. Iranian missiles launching toward Israeli targets. Silverdome electromagnetic pulses disabling those missiles mid-flight. Weapons that cost millions of dollars becoming useless scrap metal because their electronics were fried by silver conducting networks. The world will witness military technology that makes everything they thought they knew about modern warfare obsolete. But Silverdome also creates escalation risks that nobody has planned for. What happens when Iranian missiles are disabled by electromagnetic interference instead of being intercepted by traditional defense systems? Does Iran recognize what happened and develop countermeasures? Do they assume their weapons malfunctioned and launch more missiles? Does Iran retaliate by attacking the silver supply chains that make Silverdome possible? Do they target European refineries, Canadian mines, and Swiss dealers that support Israeli electromagnetic warfare capabilities? Silverdome could transform regional military conflicts into global resource wars. Countries worldwide are starting to recognize that electromagnetic warfare capabilities require silver stockpiles that most nations cannot afford. The strategic metal that seemed abundant enough for industrial needs becomes scarce when military applications consume hundreds of tons at a time. Israel's 420-ton silver acquisition removes significant quantities from global markets while establishing precedent for military silver stockpiling. Other countries with electromagnetic warfare ambitions will compete for remaining silver supplies. Military demand for silver could exceed industrial consumption within 5 years. Price increases that make electronics manufacturing economically unviable. Supply shortages that force civilian technology companies to compete with defense contractors for access to critical materials. Silverdome doesn't just protect Israel from missile attacks. It demonstrates that modern warfare depends on precious metal resources that civilian industries also depend on. The competition between military and civilian silver demand could reshape global technology development in ways that nobody has anticipated. But the most disturbing aspect of Operation Silverdome isn't the military technology or the resource implications. It's the precedent it establishes for secret military development using civilian commodity markets. Israel developed game-changing military capabilities through precious metal purchases that looked like routine industrial procurement. They built electromagnetic warfare systems while everyone thought they were buying silver for electronics manufacturing. Other countries are learning from this approach. Military technology development hidden within civilian supply chains. Defense capabilities funded through commodity markets that nobody monitors for military applications. The global silver market just became a national security intelligence source. Every major silver purchase could indicate military technology development. Every supply chain disruption could reveal secret weapons programs. Commodity markets are no longer purely economic. They're strategic intelligence sources that reveal national military capabilities and intentions. Silverdome changed more than Middle Eastern military balance. It transformed how governments think about resource acquisition for military purposes. And nobody knows which countries are already following Israel's example. The 420 tons of silver beneath Israeli cities represent more than electromagnetic warfare capability. They represent the militarization of global commodity markets and the beginning of resource-based military competition that most countries are unprepared for. Iran will discover Silver Dome's capabilities the hard way, through missiles that stop working when they enter Israeli airspace, through electronics that fail when they encounter electromagnetic interference. The rest of the world will discover that military technology development is happening in markets they thought were civilian. Silver Dome isn't just Israel's secret weapon. It's proof that the next arms race will be fought through commodity markets that most people never pay attention to. The Middle East just became the testing ground for warfare that depends on precious metals instead of conventional weapons. And the testing begins the moment Iran decides to retaliate.